It is said in the ancient legends that if one subscribes to this channel, great things will await them. So what are you waiting for?
Dawgson's Cave by Magical Toddler. I'd like to start by saying there's a nightmare at Dawgson's Creek. At least so my atheist friend tells me. My friend David Tebler. The man is a drunkard, belligerent, and disgusting as they come. He spends most of his time at various bars around the city, downing glass after glass in a pitiful attempt to drown his troubles. And this is the story of how he ended up like that. It was a Thursday night. I entered my favorite bar, not expecting him to be there. But he was, drunk off his arse as usual. On the few times we'd see each other in the same joint, usually things would become philosophical, yet hilariously drunken, at least on his side, debate about religion. But tonight he stopped me. I walked into the bar and almost immediately saw him over at the counter. He rolled the ice in his empty glass and ordered another. "Don't you think you've had enough?" the bartender girl asked him, a serious glare of concern in her eye.
"Lady,"
he replied with a drunken slur,
"when you've seen what I've seen, enough is never enough."
I stepped up and told her the usual thing when I met him. "Don't worry, I'll take him home if he gets too bad." I sat down beside him and ordered him a ginger ale. Ironic that I had a favorite bar, yet didn't drink much more than an occasional mild beer. Our night began with the usual banter. I laugh at a few jokes here and there, and his terrible attempts at flirting with the bartender. But after a while, he turned to me and asked, "Did I ever tell you why I don't believe in God?" The question was point blank and straight as an arrow. I had thought he was going to start yet another debate about it with me. Knowing he had never said anything to me about why he didn't believe, I figured he would respond with logic or reason, casual and normal reasoning of an atheist. But it wasn't. "No, you haven't," I answered calmly. He turned all the way towards me, rotating the chair in a drunken haze. I could smell the beer on his breath as he looked me right in the eye and began to respond. "In Ohio, there's an unheard-of town called Dawson's Creek. It's a nice enough little hamlet, but a boring place for tourists. Hangs off an unmapped mountain, and to get to it, you gotta use an unmapped road. You know, I used to travel the country, back when I believed. I would go to all the caves, old forts, shit like that. I found it interesting, exploring the deepest parts of American history. One day, though, my truck had broken down just outside Dawson's Creek, and I was out on the road to California when I was there. Didn't even know it existed whilst I was struggling with OnStar. Found out right after their local mechanic rolled around in his tow truck. He gave me a ride, towed my truck to his shop, and he told me I'd be spending a good 3 or 4 days there. Nice fella he was. Paid for my stay at the local motel." He swallowed down his last bit of vodka and ordered another glass. The bartender brought it to him and told him it was his last one. He grumbled and turned back to me. "As I said, though, it was a pretty boring little place. Not many sights to see. But I decided the second day to go for a walk around town. Maybe go to a bar or some shit. That was when I overheard a couple of the locals talking about a cave off in the mountains just outside of town. They said it was somewhere off the old dirt road to the west of the place. Hell, I knew where I was going. Dug through my bag for my ropes and flashlight and went off towards the cave. The moment I walked inside, I should have known something would go wrong. It was colder in there than usual. The cave is always a solid 60 degrees. Never above or below, except by 1 or 2 degrees at most. But this cave was fucking freezing. Still though, kept heading in and out of sheer boredom. There were a few slopes. I put some stakes into the rock, which was pretty weak for any cave rock, really. Attached my rope and went. Left them there with some marker lights. The cave itself was pretty damn interesting, to say the least. Pretty dank, had nicely sized stalagmites and stalactites. What was getting me, though, was that there wasn't a single cave animal, and it appeared I wasn't the first person to go in. I wasn't too surprised by the latter concern. Town knows about it, so somebody had to go there, right? He put a cigarette in his mouth and lit it. He exhaled the smoke, sending the wisps through the air at the bar. I went through a few different little areas, no trouble. It was fucking cold. Then I could have swore something fell in front of me. Something that looked human. Something I could have swore screamed bloody murder on its way down. But I could only have swore. When I ran towards it, it was gone. Just like that? I asked, peculiarly interested. Just like that. He took another drag from his cancer stick. But that's the thing about caves. When you're in, the only light is what you take with you. It gets so dark, you can't even see your hand in front of your face. It ain't hard to get paranoid in there, and it ain't hard to start seeing shit that ain't there either. I kept moving in. God damn, I was a stupid young guy. Anyhow, that's when I screwed up. I tripped. Didn't even notice the damn hole or the slope right in front of it. Tripped right off a fucking ledge without even a rope on. And heard my bone crack. I cringed, imagining that. My leg was broke. Real broke. Bone was sticking out in two places. There was no way I was getting out of there. Did I mention that it hurt like hell? Because it did. I remember sitting against the wall, picking up my light so I could see what was around me besides the damn blood from my leg. And I remember screaming in fear as much as I did pain. He stopped for a moment. Right in front of me. She was right in front of me. Who? Who was she, David? I snapped my fingers in front of his face. He pulled his head back a slight bit. I don't know. I could just tell it was a girl. Or at least, what was left of her. And she was a skeleton. A fucking skeleton in female cave gear, just fucking laying there. I was out of breath. Breathed in, breathed out. Try and regain my composure. Crawled towards her as much as my broken leg would let me. Trying to see who she was, I guess. I'd do something like that. There was nothing. Now, as I said, it ain't hard to start seeing shit in caves that ain't there. Well, I shouldn't say it ain't hard to hear shit either. I was over the body and I heard an ear-piercing scream and then a thud. He banged his hand on the table, surprising the bartender. It was like someone fell off a ledge. Like someone other than me, like someone like this girl. I hadn't even touched the body, the pile of bones. But it moved. The goddamn skeleton moved. 1 minute, the hand was above the head, the next touching my leg. Touching my broken leg. I moved back towards the wall as fast as my body would take me, breathing in pain. Damn leg, I sat there. That was when the worst possible thing that could have happened. My light went out. The battery died. While I was sitting in a fucking hole. A dark and cold fucking hole. Didn't even have my pack. And then I heard it again. And again. And again. And again. And again. And again. And again. Same damn scream. Same damn thud. But that ain't it. It was getting closer. The goddamn fall was getting closer and closer. I spent what felt like years down there listening to it. And then I felt it. I'm absolutely sure I felt it. He cackled again and took another swallow of vodka. Felt what? The damn skeleton. It was touching me. I could have swore it was touching me. I could feel it. It wasn't a damn hallucination. I prayed to God that day more than I'd ever did in my life. Called to a higher power more than ever. Just praying, hoping to get away from that damn home. From that fucking skeleton. He calmed down for a moment, then breathed out a breath from his hyperactivity. Then I remembered the lighter in my pocket. I fingered for it and struck it. Just like I thought. The damn skeleton was there. Hand on me and all. It was facing towards me, and I saw what made me realize that God was not there for me. There was a cross around her neck. It was one of those that a church gives you. Well, gold-plated thing that some of them give out. I could have swore that that skeleton was moving right in front of me, and I heard a laugh. Some kind of cackle, a laugh or something. And it was coming right from that skeleton. The jawbone was going up and down and up and down and over again. And that's when I gave up hope. I was gonna die in here. And right beside that damn skeleton. But you didn't. You're still here. Bullshit. Look at me. I'm a drunken, soulless old man. But is that cross the only reason you lost your faith? He chuckled again. No. What made me lose my faith was the question I asked. What kind of loving God would put someone through shit like that? What kind of merciful God would allow that shit to happen? Even the devil couldn't come up with something as torturous as that. I remember it every night when I sleep. I see it. That damn skeleton is in my dreams, driving me insane. Every night, the same damn laughing skeleton. That cave. What it contains is so evil, in my opinion, that hell itself spat it back out. After you've seen something like that, it don't take no logical reason to stop believing in the higher powers. You just know. They ain't there. That girl, she had to have been a Christian, a believer just like me at that time. But her rest didn't come. She didn't get to go to no eternal paradise. She's simply in that cave, falling over and over again. That torture, it drives your very soul insane. What kind of God would abandon his follower like that? Reliving a fall over and over again, long after your death. Terrifying, that is. And hitting the ground like that. The way I figure, if you're already dead, there ain't nothing that'll take the pain away. Imagine hitting the ground over and over again, but you just can't die. You're already dead. Unable to do anything about it. And the worst part is, she didn't die instantly. When I had my light, I noticed something besides her. She used one of her stakes and carved the stone beside her. She carved only 3 words. God help me. God didn't answer her prayers. He left her there. God abandoned her. He cackled again, the look on his face a mix of drunkenness and insanity. But how do you know she was a woman of faith? I asked, blank-minded as to what I could say in response. Other than the cross and what she carved? I heard her prayers. I tell you, I heard her prayers same as I heard the fall. She cried and cried for God to help her. Prayed she would be saved and rescued. She begged forgiveness for every misstep, everything she could remember. I could hear her crying all throughout her praying, suffering from the pain from the fall, being trapped down there in the cave. I could just imagine sitting there, holding onto that cross, before finally giving up and carving those words into the stone in a desperate attempt to get God to help you. After every fall, every time a prayer, same phrasing, same words, same female voice. Hearing those things, hearing that desperation, I just can't see it any other way. He swallowed down a bit more of his cup of vodka. I see. But how did you survive? I asked, curious. I don't know. I was told it was a rescue team. I passed out long after, woke up in the hospital, my leg bandaged up. I asked them for the names of the people who got me out of there. They gave them to me, told me to thank him, and I did. But as one and more to ask him about that skeleton. First one I went up to, I thanked him, shook his hand and asked. And his reply solidified to me that there was no God. What skeleton? He asked me back. Sure you weren't seeing things? Can get pretty damn dark in those caves. I would have believed him. I really would have. But I know what I saw. It wasn't a hallucination. It was there. She was there. He took his last swallow of vodka and said, but of course, it ain't hard to start seeing shit that ain't there. In those caves.